Good morning, folks. We now begin our lecture on Kanban. My name is Eduardo Polegato. I work at Globo.com. I'm score master. I was going to deliver this with Fábio Trierveiler. There were some unforeseen happenings, so I will be here representing him. We'll begin with the Kanban, which is used by several frameworks, and we will talk about doubts in the Kanban methods, an evolutionary methods, which is focused to the knowledge software sciences. We're talking about this for those of you who are not familiar with the subject. Kanban will not serve me. Kanban doesn't tell me when it is going to be ready, and it works for bugs. I need different demands, requirements, and innovation and experiments. Kanban won't serve me thus. How can I model my planning? I have to estimate. I have to know exactly when the product will be ready. And the main, which is most common, is my team is different. Kanban won't serve here. Kanban is a method for different industries, different areas, different teams. Why is your team the only one that's different and Kanban won't work for you? This is perhaps resistance or lack of knowledge and so forth. Before I start with the 5 most common doubts, which is what I often do with those that began with Agile, beginning with Agile and Kanban and the Cascade model, is that people listen and read papers that Agile doesn't have any sales, doesn't have an analytical phase or a testing, and all this is BS. And this team wants to leap upon the ideal model. They want to begin with the Agile format. They model out the Kanban and they remove stages. I will not have tests. I will not have analysis because this is not analogous. I will only have the backlog, the do, and the done. They begin where they want to be, not where they are. A number of problems appears. I work on the backlog, but I cannot fiddle with this item because I need analysis. There's another item, I don't have the testing. Since I don't have that, they create artifacts, labels, different manners to identify what they want. And they have a Kanban that nobody understands, polluted and full of unnecessary stuff. And to meet the needs of a stage that shouldn't be there. They design Kanban as it should be and not as they are. So an approach is suggested to define the current model, to create the first Kanban. So the static begins with the identification of the purposes of the team. It has several steps, but not all are necessary, and the sequence may change. The first is the purpose. What does the client expect? What is your product? This has to be identified. Dissatisfactions. We are moving towards a Kanban system. What does the customer want to solve? What are your problems? Team dissatisfaction, stakeholder dissatisfaction, product dissatisfaction. What are the current dissatisfaction, and what is it that we wish to solve? And the demands. What are the requirements that reach the team? How often do these demands appear? What are the types of demands that come to us? All these demands align with my purpose. Why am I doing this? Is it aligned? Is this my product? Is this what I want? Analyzing the capabilities. Currently, how do I know what I'm delivering? How much am I delivering? What is the quality of my delivery? Am I using any metric? How do I plan? How do I review? The 5th step is to design my workflow. I have the process from beginning to end. What are the stages from beginning to end? What are the step-by-step, what is the step-by-step sequence? I have the testing, I have deployment, and independently of being in agile, whether it is a cascade or whatever, what is my current process? As of this process, I will analyze and evolve and perhaps reach my goal of being a more efficient, more agile team. Identify classes of services. What are my demands? How am I demanded by them? What are the requirements from them? Do they have a fixed date? Are they stable? Are they variable? Those are the types of demands that can be grouped individually. Second step, I will design my Kanban. After all confirmations, after the analysis, and this analysis is done in a team, an XBL, the team that does everything together and designs your Kanban. So you design the Kanban in accordance with your current reality. And it is from then that you will evolve and improve and reach the performance point that you require. And lastly, rollout. Rollout is the design Kanban that will be published and that will be used with the teams. Once the Kanban is done, team work together, get the static. Everything is okay. We begin using it and some questions appear. The first question is, what are demands that you include on the board? I understood that the Kanban, I do the Kaizen, and now what do I do? Meetings. I have a lot of meetings, so I have to include the meetings. My pending emails, the absence of events. I go to an event. I'm going to be the goalkeeper in the event. There's somebody in my team that has a lot of organizations and involvement with other teams. Am I going to include this in the Kanban? A number of issues, a number of questions, individual questions. Kanban is a team board or team wall, your own Kanban. But it makes sense to factor the team in your Kanban. I don't have the answer to everything here, what can or what should and shouldn't. The response is what has value. And the question is this. If the question is this, the answer is yes, yes, factor it in. If the answer is no, no, don't factor it in. Otherwise, this is going to create confusion with a number of tickets on the board, and that means identify what is valuable and what is not. But common sense always comes into play. But everything has its value. But let's measure the value. Sometimes you add all the tickets that have value, and then you begin losing yourself like the invisible Post-it. You add a Post-it in the middle of Kanban. How many days will it take you to notice that Post-it? If you didn't notice it, something is wrong. Or the FDN will say, the Scrum Master and the FDM will say, well, I do that because every day I do a once-over on the process, at least once a day. Makes sense. And he has this role of reviewing the Post-its. Post-its are, what is worse, having the Scrum Master working on the Post-its or to add the Post-its? What do you want of value in order not to harm your management of the Kanban? Also on the board, I work on .con with a company that works with innovation and experiments, and these demands are uncertain. I'm not sure that they will run the full course. Some don't make much sense. They may drop midway. I will reject it. How do I represent this? What can I do to add into Kanban an idea that I'm not sure I will pursue or not? Perhaps there is a technique, a way of using two Kanban pictures, one for discovery and one for delivery. Discovery is the board that you use precisely to include these ideas and experiments where the card can exit at any time. It is coursing there. I notice that it has no value. I can reject it. This is not going to jeopardize my metrics, my digital throughput, and the discovery board will not hinder that. And when I find out that it makes sense, then I can include it in the delivery board. I have a backlog curve. What may happen here is that the team may fall into a pitfall, is to use it as a cascade. And what happens then? Discovery is used to define the requisites. But this is not the purpose. The discovery is to define whether it will be done and what will be done, and not how. If you're working on how in discovery, this is you're doing something for people to develop. And the idea is to have ideas and experiments and not define what will be done. So grain is the what and then how, which joins the group together. Second doubt that people have in the sequence, you commented that I am not going to have a previous requisites. I will not define the how previously. I'll have everything in the delivery. I don't know the requisites, but how can I say when it is going to be ready? Difficulty. And we change the scope and how am I going to deliver? And we use the stories. I have a throughput chart, which is the flow, and what is the delivery going to be for a period. This is an example for a week. Every week, 2, 3, 4, and these demands are, these requirements are working together, the testing, that time is computed in the flow. And then I begin with visibility. If the throughput is variable, 1 week 1, another week 20, the other one 5, then I have a problem. I have to stabilize throughput, but throughput will give me the information on the week. And lead time too, which is how many days this will take from beginning to end. And I use statistics. I don't think you can see here, 35% of all requirements will be ready in 15 days, in up to 15 days. So I'll take a 15% risk, and 15 days is a level of confidence that I will deliver the product within. And at which time am I going to populate? I will flash out my Kanban. There is a replenishment, which is the moment when the team begins. There is a prioritized backlog. Then the team takes these guides, and according to your throughput, they will move this to the development backlog, which is the commitment point. I like Sumo's image, which it represents as a marriage. When you take a card and move it to the column for development, you will enter a commitment because you're married to it throughout the entire process. I talked about throughput, and I am going to look at how many I have per week. And the answer may be, well, I have things that will take 1 day, others 2 weeks, other 1 month, so the statistics will not work for me. What I need is to estimate it in story points. Then there is the Fibonacci sequence that we often find. I have to have story points. I have to create a method to estimate of animal sizes. Elephant is worth 3 points, and then a bear is, 8 points. And I'll use Fibonacci to estimate. I don't necessarily have to do it because there's a bottleneck in the process, and this process reduces the size differences. And when I begin to write my cards and stories, then they follow a pattern. And this variability will change. But there will be variability. But my process contains bottlenecks. Which bottlenecks reduce these differences? So like the changes, imagine a bottleneck, a traffic jam. I have an old car driving 50 kilometers per hour, and there is a top model Ferrari, 1,000 horsepower, and imagine that I am behind the Ferrari and all the time, because the differences were removed by the bottleneck. If I want to improve, I have to remove the bottleneck. I don't have to work on storyboards. It's the quantity that will help me. In order to have variability, I control variability, I have to work on throughput. This is where I will work. I have to analyze my flow. I have an image of a CFD. It is the CFD that will give me the direction and make me observe the bottlenecks and tackle them when I have a well identified bottleneck. Then I will stop starting things, and work on the completion. My team has 5 requirements, and I will tackle these 5 requirements, and that's about it. So by limiting IP, this is what I'm going to do. In blue, I have the done. And when the whip was more controlled, I was going, but when the whip increased, I stopped delivering because I began too many things concomitantly. I stopped delivering, and when I began to decrease the whip, then I continued to deliver. So this requirement is blocked. Let me tackle another one because I cannot stop. This is going to be more productive. Perhaps it is better to help your friend complete something that is underway or in process than simply block it and take another piece of work in process. This is going to worsen the bottleneck, which will increase. And lastly, I said that the differences are reduced as with the bottleneck. I'm not going to take an APICO, for example, for a single card. They need to write stories and those things of what will be done and maintain user stories and so forth. And you will have a good pace, and the bottlenecks will be removed. As far as size is concerned, I have types of demands, of requirements that hinder my throughput. Queue is going well, I'm following my track, an emergency pops in. A production dropped, the house fell down, and everything stops. And this is going to hinder my throughput. This is going to influence my flow. And we'll call an ambulance. So what? The Kanban method suggests 4 items. Expediting, which is urgent. And there's an urgent item that will crisscross everything. Your entire track will be held as true. So you start classifying items with each one of them. Then you have throughput via the class of service. Then you will have the possibility of proceeding with each one of these services. You don't have to use the 4 of them. Expediting is urgent. Data fixer is okay, but after such and such date, it will be a problem, very high cost. Black Friday, for example. It will have to deliver until Friday. It won't work. It makes no sense after Friday. Date comes in, and then it didn't deliver. The cost will be very high. The delay is very high. The global play. There will be a worldwide, the World Cup finals. You have a feature for live transmission. You need it until the date of the game. If you don't have it, a problem will come up. And the standards are these. The more you delay, you will have delay cost controlled, and intangibles, which is that disconnected ideas, mismatched ideas, something more tangible at the time. Then what people comment is blocking. I have a blocked column. How do I identify that? We begin with the expectation that the scheme master will do it. In practice, we have a blocked item, but that depends on the team. The team is not there. It is in a meeting or in a conference. and I will unblock it later. This will pile up, and indeed, the throughput and everything will become a deposit of blocked items. So we suggest the creation of a tag, and in the column where you have a blocked item, it is indicated as blocked. You'll signal that to the team, and respecting working process. If you added working process WIP there, you will have 10 blocked items. You have to solve them all. Well, but this is waste. Don't stop. Who has it? Another team. Go there. Help them out. This will improve flow. These blocking policies and limited working process, make them very explicit. Everybody has to learn of them. And the other impediments, you will solve them one by one and improve your flow. And finally, the fifth question is dependency. But I have several teams, and we work on the same epic. How can I do it? Kanban for everybody will be quite confusing. We suggest the creation of several Kanbans, each team with its Kanban where the stories are represented, and a portfolio Kanban. This portfolio Kanban is linked to all the stories. All the stories are linked to an epic. For example, I have a demand that is an epic. It is included in the portfolio. As of the moment that I identified more than one team, 2, 3 teams, for example, we hear the stories. I'm talking about cascading. I'm not talking about how it is going to be made. I'm talking about little stages. So there's a difference between how and what. I'm talking about what. So I look at the stories of what has to be done, put them on the teams, and I link them to the epic. So I have a map of dependence of each team pegged to the portfolio. These are the questions. This is the global page. All right. Thank you all.